Virgo, let me tell you what I noticed first, before anything else, before I even try to make sense of it. There's a stillness around this person right now, a very particular kind of quiet. And it isn't the quiet of someone who has nothing to say. It's the opposite. It's the hush of someone standing at the edge of speaking, someone who has rehearsed the words so many times in private that they've worn a groove into their own thinking. You are on the other side of that groove. You are the sentence they keep almost saying out loud. And what strikes me sitting with this is how much feeling is being held in such a small, still space, like a room that looks empty, until you step inside and realize the air itself is charged. So let's stay here for a moment, because I want you to understand the difference between a person who is cold and a person who is careful, and this person is careful. That distinction matters more than almost anything I could tell you today. Coldness has no pulse. Carefulness has a racing one. When someone holds back out of indifference, there's nothing underneath the surface, no current, no heat. But when someone holds back the way this person has been holding back, it's because the feeling is so large that they've been frightened of what might happen if they let it move. They weren't protecting themselves from you. They were protecting you from the full weight of what they carry, because some part of them worried it might be too much, too soon, too intense to hand to someone all at once. And here is where the picture starts to shift, because I'm sensing that the holding is ending, not slowly, not gradually leaking out over a long stretch of hesitation. Something in them has made a decision. And once this kind of person decides, they don't tiptoe back from it. I want you to feel the texture of that decision, because it's not impulsive. It has the calm of something long considered. It's the calm of a person who has finally stopped arguing with themselves and has landed fully on the side of you. Let me show you what the holding back actually looked like from the inside, because I think you've been reading it wrong. You may have interpreted their distance as disinterest. You may have watched them pull inward and assumed you were losing them, but what was actually happening was a kind of gathering. Picture someone standing very still while an enormous wave builds behind them. They aren't frozen because they feel nothing. They're braced because they feel everything, and they're waiting for the right moment to turn and let it carry them forward. That's what the quiet was. A brace before a movement. A held breath before a plunge. I keep coming back to their hands. Oddly enough, not literally, but energetically, there's this sense of hands that have reached toward you and then stopped, reached and stopped, over and over. The way you might reach for something precious and pull back for fear of leaving fingerprints on it. This person has treated the idea of you with a strange reverence. They've built you up in their private thoughts into something they weren't sure they had the right to touch. And so much of their restraint has been that, not doubt about their feelings, but doubt about whether they deserved to act on them. Now watch how that changes everything about what's coming. When someone finally decides they do have the right, when the reverence stops being a cage and becomes a reason instead, the restraint doesn't just loosen, it reverses. All that pent energy has to go somewhere. All those reached and pulled back gestures start completing themselves. The person who couldn't bring themselves to say the smallest thing becomes the person who can't stop themselves from saying the biggest one. This is the turn I feel happening. And I feel it happening not in some far off abstract sense, but close, near, almost within arm's reach of where you are right now. There's a warmth I want to name specifically, because it's easy to talk about love in vague floating terms, and I don't want to do that with you. This warmth is directed, it has your name on it. When this person thinks of you, something in them softens in a way it doesn't soften for anyone else, and they know it, and that knowledge has become a little frightening to them, because it means you've become important in a way that can't be undone. You can walk away from someone who's mildly interesting. You cannot easily walk away from someone who has quietly rearranged the furniture of your inner life, and you have rearranged theirs. Let me sit with the word holding itself for a moment, because the title of what we're exploring together turns on it. To hold something back is to have your hands already full of it. You cannot hold back what you do not possess. So the very fact that there was something to restrain tells you everything about what was already there. The feeling existed first. The restraint came second, as a response to how strong the feeling had already become. People don't build dams across dry riverbeds. The dam is proof of the water. And the water, in this case, has been rising for far longer than you've realized. This is the kind of insight that Sarah Angel Tarot exists to bring to the surface for you, the things underneath, the truths that live one layer below what a person shows the world. Because so often what we witness on the outside is only the smallest visible edge of what someone actually carries. And the whole art of a reading like this one is learning to sense the shape of the rest. I want to tell you about the quality of their attention. Because attention is where love lives before it ever becomes words. This person notices you. They notice things about you that you assume no one sees. The small shifts in your mood that you think you hide well, the way you go quiet when something's wrong, the particular thing that makes your face open up when you're truly happy, they've cataloged you. They've been studying you with the devotion of someone learning a language they intend to speak fluently for a very long time. And people do not study what they intend to leave. You do not memorize the map of a place you're only passing through. Here's something tender I'm picking up, and I want to hand it to you gently. There's a specific memory this person keeps returning to. A moment between you that might have seemed ordinary to you, unremarkable even, something you might not have flagged as significant at all. But for them, it became a kind of anchor. They replay it. It's the moment they point to privately when they explain to themselves why they can't let go. You may never know exactly which moment it is, but I want you to understand that somewhere in your shared history, there's an instant you gave away without thinking, and they picked it up and have been carrying it in their pocket ever since. Let me widen the lens, because I don't want you to think this feeling in them is fragile or uncertain. It isn't. What I'm sensing has weight and root. This is not a passing infatuation that will evaporate the moment something shinier crosses their path. Infatuation is loud and shallow. What this person feels is quiet and deep. And quiet, deep things don't blow away in the wind. They've had time to test their own heart. They've had every opportunity to talk themselves out of you. And they've tried. And it didn't work. And at some point, they stopped trying. There's a kind of surrender in that. Not defeat, but the peaceful surrender of someone who has stopped fighting a truth that was never going to lose. I keep sensing a phrase forming in them, something they want you to know, and it isn't dramatic. It isn't a grand declaration full of fireworks. It's simpler and steadier than that. It's more like, I've made room for you. I've cleared a space and it's yours, and I'm not going to fill it with anyone else. That's the emotional reality underneath whatever words eventually come out. This person has been, in a very real way, keeping a seat empty for you, refusing to let anyone else sit down in it. And the reason they're done holding back is that keeping the seat empty in silence has finally started to feel dishonest to them. They'd rather tell you the seat exists than keep guarding it in secret. There's a shift in their courage I want to trace for you, because courage isn't a single thing that arrives all at once. It builds in stages, and I can feel the stages this person has moved through. First, there was the stage of admitting it to themselves, which took longer than you'd think. Then the stage of admitting it to someone else, a friend maybe, a confidant, someone they trusted enough to say it out loud to, for the first time, and saying it out loud, made it real in a way that couldn't be walked back. And now there's the final stage, the one they're standing in right now, the stage of being ready to bring it to you directly. Each stage required more nerve than the last, and they've climbed every one. Notice how different this feels from someone who leads with their heart carelessly. There are people who fall fast and speak faster and mean less. This is not that. This is someone who moves slowly, precisely because they take it seriously, and the slowness you may have found frustrating is actually the strongest evidence of how much it matters to them. Fast is cheap. Slow is expensive. This person has been spending something to arrive at you, and they've been willing to pay it. And that willingness is itself a form of love that doesn't always get recognized as such. I want to talk about what they see when they look at their future, because this is where the holding back really dissolves. When this person imagines the shape of the years ahead, you're in the picture. Not as a maybe, not as a question mark, but as a settled presence. They've done the private work of picturing an ordinary life with you, woven through it the small, unremarkable days, the mornings, the routines, the quiet in-between hours that make up most of a life. And here's the thing about that kind of imagining. You don't do it about people you plan to release. You only build detailed futures around people you intend to keep. The fact that they've been decorating tomorrow with you in it tells you exactly how permanent their intentions have become. Let me name a fear they've carried, because naming it dissolves some of its power. They've been afraid that they feel more than you do. That's been part of what held them still, the worry that if they revealed the full size of their heart, they'd be standing there exposed while you looked at them with something less than what they were offering. This is one of the oldest fears in the world. The fear of loving unequally, of being the one who cares more. And what's beautiful about where they've arrived is that they've decided it's worth the risk anyway. They'd rather offer everything and find out than keep everything hidden and never know. That decision to risk being the one who feels more is one of the bravest things a cautious person can do. There's something I find deeply moving about the way this person has protected your dignity even in silence. They've never made you a subject of gossip. They haven't reduced you to a story they tell to entertain other people. Whatever they feel, they've kept it clean, kept it respectful, kept your name safe in their mouth. And that matters, because it tells you the character of the person whose feelings are about to surface. This isn't someone who wants to conquer you or collect you. This is someone who wants to honor you. The love that's been holding itself back is a love with good manners. A love that has been waiting for permission rather than trying to take anything from you by force. I'm sensing that something you did recently, some gesture, some word, some small act of warmth on your part landed on them harder than you'd guess. You may not have thought twice about it, but to someone who has been quietly hoping, the smallest sign of openness from you can feel like a door swinging wide. It's possible that you, without meaning to, gave them the exact permission they'd been waiting for. That a moment of ordinary kindness from you was read by them as a signal, and that signal is part of what tipped them from holding back into moving forward. Your gentleness has more power over this person than you realize. Let me draw out something about timing without pointing to any particular day, because the timing of this isn't accidental. This person waited until they were sure, not sure of you, but sure of themselves. They didn't want to come to you half-formed, still wobbling, still unsure whether they'd change their mind. They wanted to arrive solid so that when they finally opened up, you could trust it. So that you'd never have to wonder if they'd wake up tomorrow and take it back. The wait, in other words, was a gift they were preparing for you. They were making themselves into someone whose word you could lean on before they ever gave you their word. Here's a truth that lives underneath the whole situation. This person doesn't just love you. They respect the version of themselves that they become around you. That's rarer and more important than it sounds. Some people are drawn to who they are when they're with someone. This person is drawn to who they get to be. You bring out a steadiness in them, a generosity, a softness they don't always have access to on their own. And that means their attachment isn't only about you as a separate object of desire, it's about the person they get to be in your presence. That's the kind of love that lasts, because it's woven into their sense of their own best self. I want to acknowledge something you might be feeling on your side, because this isn't only about them. You may have grown tired of waiting. You may have started to build walls of your own, started to protect yourself from a hope that seemed to keep not arriving. If that's true, I want to gently invite you to notice those walls, because the thing you've been bracing against isn't rejection, it's the arrival of exactly what you wanted. And sometimes that's the harder thing to let yourself believe in. It can feel safer to expect nothing than to hope and be disappointed. But the story I'm sensing doesn't end in disappointment. It ends in someone finally saying the thing you'd almost given up on hearing. Let me describe the emotional temperature of what's coming, because I don't want you to picture something cold or transactional. When this person opens up, it will carry heat, real heat. There's a passion in them that has been pressurized by all this waiting, and pressurized things release with force. What has been dammed will move fast once it starts moving. I don't mean that in an overwhelming way. I mean that the tenderness, when it finally reaches you, will feel unmistakable. There will be no ambiguity in it. You won't have to squint to see whether they mean it. It will be clear the way sunlight is clear, filling the whole room at once. I keep noticing how much this person wants to be known by you, not just to know you. There's a longing in them to be seen accurately, to have you understand who they really are beneath whatever face they wear in the world. They want to lower the guard, they keep up for everyone else and let you all the way in. And that's a specific kind of intimacy that has nothing to do with grand romance and everything to do with trust, the desire to be transparent to one particular person, to have at least one place in the world where they don't have to perform. They've chosen you as that place. You are where they want to finally be able to exhale. There's a quality of gratitude in them that I find striking. This person feels lucky, not entitled, not owed, but genuinely fortunate that someone like you exists and that your paths crossed at all. And that gratitude is going to shape the way they come to you. They won't arrive demanding, they'll arrive thankful. There's a humility underneath their feeling that keeps it from ever curdling into possessiveness. They don't want to own you. They want to appreciate you out loud every day in ways they've only been able to do silently until now. The holding back was in part the sound of gratitude that had nowhere to go. Let me tell you about the way they think of your happiness, because this is the clearest sign of the real thing. This person has caught themselves more than once wanting good things for you that have nothing to do with them, wanting you to succeed in the areas of your life they aren't even part of, wanting you to feel proud of yourself, wanting you to be at peace, wanting your days to go well, whether or not they're there to see it. That's the fingerprint of genuine love, when someone's care for you extends beyond their own role in your story, when they'd be glad for your joy, even in a version of events where they don't benefit from it. That selfless strand runs all through what I'm feeling from them. Now, I want to speak to the part of you that's skeptical, because you may be listening to all this and thinking it sounds too good, thinking surely it can't be this straightforward. Let me honor that skepticism by telling you it makes sense. You've probably been let down before. You've probably been handed hope that dissolved. So of course a part of you stands with arms crossed. But I'd ask you to consider that the reason this feels different is because it is different. This is not a person playing games, not a person keeping their options open, not a person who will vanish the moment things get real. This is a person who has already done the hard internal work that most people skip, and that work is why what's coming will hold. There's a softness I want to describe in the way this person will likely reach out. It won't come with pressure. They're not going to corner you or force a moment or demand an immediate answer. That's not their way. What they want most is to give you room to say what they feel and then let you have all the space you need to receive it however you receive it. They've thought about your comfort in this. They don't want to overwhelm you. And that considerateness, that instinct to make the moment safe for you rather than convenient for them, is one more piece of evidence about the depth of what they carry. I'm being shown something about consistency, and I want to pass it along because it's reassuring. Whatever this person becomes to you, they will be steady in it. This is not someone whose warmth runs hot and cold, who floods you with affection one week and disappears the next. The very carefulness that made them slow to arrive is the same quality that will make them constant once they're here. Slow building things tend to be durable things. The tortoise-hearted keep their pace. So if what you feared is inconsistency, I'd invite you to set that fear down, because the person whose feelings are surfacing is built for the long, patient stretch, not the flashy sprint. Let me name the sweetness of anticipation you might be standing in right now, because there's something precious about this in-between moment. You are in the last stretch before a thing you've wanted becomes real, and there's a particular tenderness to that threshold. Savor it if you can. The moment right before is its own kind of gift, the held breath, the sense of something warm gathering just out of sight. Soon enough, it will arrive and become ordinary, become part of your life, become a fact rather than a hope. But right now, it's still shimmering with possibility, and that shimmer is worth feeling fully. I want to reflect on why you, specifically, out of everyone this person could have chosen to feel this way about. Because it isn't random. There's something about your particular way of being in the world that unlocked them. Maybe it's a genuineness in you, a lack of pretense, a way you have of being real that made them feel they could be real too. Maybe it's a strength they admire, or a gentleness, or a resilience they've watched you carry. Whatever it is, you didn't win them over by performing, you won them over by being yourself, which means you'll never have to keep up an act to keep them. The you that drew them in is the you that gets to relax completely once they're close. This is the sort of clarity that Sarah Angel Tarot is here to offer you when the situation feels murky and you can't tell which signals to trust, a steadier read on what's real, a way of separating the genuine current from the noise. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't the waiting, it's not knowing whether the waiting means anything. And the answer, in your case, is that it does. I'm sensing this person has been more affected by your absence in whatever form that absence takes than they'd ever admit casually. When you're not around, there's a specific quiet in their world that they've come to associate with you being missing from it. They notice the gap. And noticing the gap is one of the surest signs that someone has become woven into the fabric of a life you feel the hole where they'd be, even before they've fully arrived. This person has been feeling your shape as an absence, which means part of them already treats your presence as the natural state of things and everything else as the deviation. Let me touch on the way they'll want to make up for lost time, because there's a bit of that energy in the mix. Some regret, gentle regret about how long they took. A wish that they'd found their courage sooner. And that regret will likely translate into a kind of eagerness once things open, an eagerness to not waste any more of the time they have. People who've kept themselves waiting often become the most present partners precisely because they know the cost of hesitation and they don't want to pay it twice. The lost time won't be a wound between you. It'll be a lesson they've already learned, one that makes them more devoted to the time you do get. There's a private joy in this person that I want you to know about, a secret happiness they carry just from knowing you exist and are part of their story. Even before anything is spoken, even in the holding back, there's been a warmth they return to in their own mind, a small internal smile that belongs only to thoughts of you. You've been a source of quiet gladness to someone, a bright spot they've kept lit in the background of their days. That's a beautiful thing to have been, even before you knew you were being it. You've been someone's good news, someone's reason to look forward, and you've been it effortlessly, just by being who you are. I want to address the courage it takes to receive, because so much of this reading has been about their courage to offer, and there's a matching bravery required from you. It can be strangely hard to let yourself be loved well, especially if you're more used to being the one who gives. When this person's care reaches you, some part of you may want to deflect it, to minimize it, to not quite let it land, because letting it land means letting yourself matter that much to someone. I gently encourage you to let it land anyway. You are allowed to be adored. You are allowed to be the one who is cherished. Practice receiving, because a great deal of receiving is coming your way. Let me draw your attention to how this changes the story you may have been telling yourself. If you've been carrying a narrative where you're the one who feels too much, who wants too much, who is somehow too intense or too eager, this reversal rewrites all of that. Because here is someone who has been feeling more than you knew, wanting more than they showed, holding back an intensity that matches or exceeds your own. You were never too much. You were just early to your own honesty. And now the other side is catching up, and you'll find that the depth you were half ashamed of is exactly the depth this person has been longing to be met with. There's a specific tenderness in how this person handles the idea of your past, your history, whatever came before them. They don't hold it against you. They don't want a version of you that's been sanded down and simplified. They want the whole of you, the parts that were shaped by things that hurt, the parts that learned caution the hard way. They're not looking to erase your story. They're hoping to become the next good chapter in it. That acceptance is part of what makes the love feel safe. You won't have to hide your scars from this one. They've already made peace with the fact that you arrive as a full person with a full past, and they want all of it. I'm noticing an eagerness in them to give you things. And I don't necessarily mean objects, though that may come too. I mean an eagerness to give you experiences, attention, ease, moments of feeling truly taken care of. There's a giver's heart in this person, a real pleasure they take in another person's delight, and you've become the primary target of that generous instinct. They've been imagining the ways they might make your life a little softer, a little warmer, a little more held. Some of that giving has already been happening quietly, in ways you may have attributed to coincidence or ordinary kindness, when really it was them choosing you again and again in small, unannounced ways. Let me speak to the steadiness of the ground beneath all of this, because I want you to feel secure in it. What's building here isn't precarious. It's not the kind of thing that a single awkward moment could shatter. There's a resilience to genuine, considered feeling. It can survive missteps, misunderstandings, the ordinary friction of two real people learning each other. So even if the beginning isn't perfectly smooth, even if there are nervous moments and clumsy first words, none of that will threaten the foundation. The foundation is solid because it was built slowly, in private, over time, and things built that way don't topple easily. I keep returning to how ready this person is, because readiness is the whole heartbeat of the title we're exploring. Being done with holding back is not the same as being pushed into the open against your will. This person isn't being forced out of hiding. They're choosing to step forward on their own terms, in their own timing, because staying hidden has finally become more painful than the risk of being seen. That's the tipping point that's been reached. The cost of silence has finally outweighed the cost of speaking. And once that scale tips, it doesn't tip back. There's no returning to the version of things where the feeling stayed locked away, because that version has become unbearable to them. There's a wholeness I sense them wanting with you. A desire not just for stolen moments, but for something integrated. Something that fits naturally into the daylight of an ordinary life. They don't want to keep you in a corner. They want you woven through the visible parts of their world, present in the routine, folded into the plain and public texture of their days. That desire for the ordinary, for the unglamorous, everyday togetherness is one of the truest signs of real intention. Fleeting interest wants excitement. Real love wants the plain, unhurried mornings, the quiet weekday hush, the ordinary in-between hours. And this person has been quietly dreaming of exactly those unremarkable moments with you. Let me reassure the part of you that worries about being a burden, because I sense that worry might live in you. You may fear that your needs, your feelings, your complexity might be too much for someone to want to take on. But this person isn't taking you on as a burden. They're reaching for you as a gift. The very things you fear might be too much are, to them, part of the richness they've been drawn to. You are not a weight they'll grudgingly carry. You are a treasure they've been hoping to be trusted with. There's a difference between someone who tolerates your depth and someone who is thrilled by it. And this person falls firmly, unmistakably into the second category. I want to speak about the honesty that's coming, because when this person finally opens up, it will be truthful in a way that's almost disarming. They're not going to give you a polished, strategic version of their feelings. They're going to give you the real thing, unguarded, maybe even a little vulnerable and raw. And that rawness is a compliment. It means they trust you enough to be imperfect in front of you, to not have it all figured out, to let you see them without armor. Receiving someone's honest uncertainty is more intimate than receiving their confident performance. And what's coming toward you is the honest kind, the kind that trembles a little because it's real. There's something I notice about how this person has grown while they waited, and it's worth naming. The waiting wasn't wasted on them. They used it. They became more sure of what they want, more clear about their own heart, more capable of showing up well. The person arriving at your door now is a more evolved version than the one who first started feeling this way. So even if you find yourself wishing they'd come sooner, know that the delay refined them. You're getting a better, steadier, more self-aware version of this person than you would have gotten had they rushed. The wait improved the gift. Let me point to the mutuality that's possible here, because this isn't meant to be a one-sided arrangement where they pour out and you simply receive. What I sense is the possibility of genuine reciprocity, two people finally able to meet each other at the same depth. You've likely been holding something back too, in your own way, for your own reasons. And part of what this person's courage does is make it safe for yours to emerge. When one person finally stops hiding, it gives the other permission to stop hiding too. So this isn't only about their revelation, it's an invitation for yours. The door swings both ways, and you're allowed to walk through it. I'm being shown a kind of relief that will settle over both of you once the truth is finally in the open air. There's an exhaustion to keeping things hidden, a low background hum of effort that you stop noticing until it stops. When the holding back ends, that hum will quiet, and in its place will come a lightness, a sense of finally being able to relax into something real. You may not have realized how much energy you've been spending on uncertainty until the uncertainty lifts. And when it lifts, you'll feel it, a loosening in your shoulders, a settling in your chest, the particular peace of no longer having to wonder. Let me speak to the way this person will remember this whole chapter later, because they will remember it. Years from now, this stretch of holding back and finally letting go will become a story they tell, a story about the time they almost stayed silent and then found the courage not to. And you'll be the reason the story has a happy ending. You'll be the person who is worth the risk. There's something lovely about becoming the answer to someone's private question of whether they should have been brave, and you are that answer. Your existence made their courage worth it. You turned their leap of faith into a soft landing. I want to acknowledge the sacredness of being chosen, because that's really what's happening beneath all the particulars. Out of all the people this person could have oriented their heart toward, they've oriented it toward you. That's not a small thing. A human heart is a limited resource, and where someone chooses to spend it says everything about what they value. This person is choosing to spend theirs on you deliberately, with their eyes open, knowing exactly what they're doing. You've been selected not by accident, not by default, but by genuine preference. And there's a quiet dignity in being someone's genuine preference and knowing you were wanted on purpose. As this reading draws toward its close, I hope you'll carry away the central thing, which is that the silence you may have found so hard to interpret was never emptiness, it was fullness waiting for a door. Everything I felt from this person points in one direction toward you, and the direction has only grown more certain with time. If Sarah Angel Tarot has helped you see even a little more clearly what's been unfolding beneath the surface, then let this be the part you hold on to. You are loved more than you've been allowed to know, by someone who is finally ready to let you know it. So let yourself soften now. Let yourself believe, just a little, in the version of things where the person who couldn't quite say it finds their voice, where the held breath is finally released, where the love that lived in the quiet steps out into the light and reaches you at last. You've waited well. You've been patient in ways you weren't always given credit for. And what's arriving is not a maybe, not a someday. It's a warmth already on its way towards you, carried by someone who has decided, fully and finally, that you are worth every word they've been saving. Receive it gently. It was always meant for you.